Let the bass kick.
How did we end up here?
Big time.
What is this thing that we're doing in this place? Oh, hey, what's up? What up, guys? What up, what up, what up? I don't know. I'm forcing it now. I miss the guys. I miss Dr. Hoy and Jay and Marcus. This is the third episode that I have now done in a row without any of them.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
This is like the real shit right
Yeah.
here?
Oh, yeah.
We're
I hit the red button.
What is the movie rating on this podcast? Can I say?
We can do whatever, because watch this interesting little trick that I developed. I have one of these that I can just pop right up on there.
Ooh.
And then boom, we're covered. That's like an insurance policy.
So
that's at least worth $1 million.
way.
We can say shoot and gosh
Oh,
darn.
dude, you can even level up your game. And then
we
watch,
can say
if we
crap.
go really off the rails, I can throw up one of these.
Ooh.
Oh.
Is that Dr. Hoy or a pineapple?
That is Dr. Hoy with a pineapple. Because
even
pineapple is our safe word. So just so everybody knows, this is a telly thing. The first time we had telly on, pineapple was established as our safe word for the show. And so if you guys start to see us potentially going into some territory that we might want to avoid in the interest of not being canceled forever, then, pineapple.
And also, pineapple was the subject of a fun question you asked me last time about on pizza. Whether it's acceptable. So, seems to be a running theme in the last cache.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, I pegged you for a guy that likes pineapple on your pizza, and then you were kind of like not into it, or do you like? I don't know.
So here,
Let's revisit this.
yes, of course.
And then we'll ask John too, and then we'll have all kinds of fun.
Yes. So I would never order pineapple on my pizza, but I would never, I'm not against it. If someone was like, hey, this place has really good pineapple pizza's their thing, I would not be like, no, absolutely not,
Not turning down your nose.
If someone told me this pizza place has great pineapple pizza, I'd be like, awesome. Can I have a pepperoni pizza? Because I love
If it was the only pizza they had, then I would go
if a
for
pizza
it.
Who
place
only
is-
has
yeah,
pineapple?
if a-
That's the place I'm never going. For
Yeah, if
pizza.
a pizza place
I'm
only
just
has
throwing
pineapple
up a
pizza,
scenario
they're
to where
no longer open.
I'm not putting myself in a box. I don't hate it. I'm just saying
That's fair. That's fair.
I wouldn't order it unless it was a really weird situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm and this is, full disclosure on the Last Cache podcast. Welcome to episode 36, by the way, everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah. And frequent guest of the podcast, Mr. Harper Thompson, and new first-time guest of the podcast, Mr. Doctor John Williams. Don't forget the doctor, guys. Don't forget
We
the
can
doctor.
forget it.
He's got a potholder degree.
It's there forever, but you can just call me whatever you want to
Call him Dr. Mister.
Yeah, the this well-anticipated combo of John Williams and Harper Thompson, which... Why are we here? Why are the two of us sitting here in
Dude,
front of
this is an interesting story. Funny story. Funny thing happened on the way to record commentary. So we showed up here at the studio this evening, and I told the guys, the reason they're not here is actually my fault, because I told them, hey, I don't want to book another guest for the podcast until we have a chance to all four of us come back together and do an episode together, since it's been so long. And then I knew that the only day, because we've been passing like trains in the night trying to get the commentary done for the Oaks Gold coverage.
True story.
And this was the only day we could do it. So I told the guys, I'm going to go over to the studio and we're going to finally record this Oaks Gold coverage commentary. And then, we'll just take a week off because Dr. Hoy's out of town. And then next Monday, let's try and all four of us get in the studio. So we show up here, and of course, what are we known for if not for technical difficulties? Of course.
Wow, speaking difficulties
Yes.
too, yeah.
Word salad.
The difficulties are
Word
numerous.
salad. But no, we show up, we start trying to download the video so that they can watch the video. And the Wi-Fi, I don't know. And this is becoming a point of some contention at the Sapphire Lounge, because I swear up and down the Wi-Fi here sucks ass. But these guys play live streaming video games in the next room and don't miss a beat. Like, Marcus is a wizard on Rocket League, and they never have any trouble. Everybody, even on Mac devices, seems to have no trouble with the Wi-Fi here, but it has never worked on my computer, and I'm too stupid to figure it out. So that's why we like to do most of our guests in studio. So anyway, we're sitting here. We've tried 6 different ways to get the video to play so we can record the commentary. And I finally just said, well, we could just record a podcast.
So we said come back on Wednesday,
Yeah.
and we're sitting here in the chairs with mics in front of our face. Anyway, so let's do a podcast. But good
why
news, Harper and I did the first hole a couple times, and we got it.
Because we were able to get it to play all the way up through the first hole.
So
big stuff.
stay tuned.
And they
for
sound
that
great,
coverage.
guys. As an expert in commentary and in recording it and performing it and all of these things, I can tell you they were nailing that first hole and in the introductions. And it's a really well shot video. I was a little concernicus because shout out to John Freitas who did the camera work. It's his first time that he's ever shot anything, so no slight to him, but you don't necessarily expect a guy's first time behind the camera to become this like stellar, awesome video coverage. You don't want to put that kind of a pressure on a guy on his first time, but I will say between his apparently he has a good eye, and obviously you've done this a couple times, and so your editing finesse and prowess behind it, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty dang good. And of course it's Seven Oaks, so what's not to love?
Yeah, so obviously you just mentioned it. Shout out to John Freitas. It was the week of the Seven Oaks Gold tournament, and I had the thought that it'd be pretty sweet to get this on video, so I made a post seeing if there's any amateur filmmakers. We weren't trying to get anyone major. I think I said in the post that we would pay them between hopefully free and not that much, and that came through big time because John was closer to the hopefully free. All it required was 2 Discraft discs, so that was a pretty easy booking.
We'll forgive him for that one.
And he came and did as good a job as he could, and gave the content to Harper, who's got a budding disc or YouTube channel. And so
budding I think might be a disservice to Harper.
budded.
But had been butted in. Well, I can't even reach it from here now.
How many subscribers do you have to no longer be budding?
Well, I don't think subscribers are necessarily the rubric that you want to gauge it by because, let's talk realistically. It's quantity versus quality, right? Like you could have a ton of content, have a ton of subscribers, and it's all just like, Harper's doing good stuff, man. And that's why he has been a part of our media team for the Music City Open for the last several years. Shout out to Harper on that. The Harper Disc Life YouTube channel. You guys can check that out. Give it a subscribe. Click that bell so you don't miss a thing.
Yeah.
But you got a bunch of good videos on there. And you guys might see Harper on some other people's videos because he's also quite a disc golfer in his own right. And, dude, this year you have been just lacing gaps and smacking baskets.
It's been a solid year so far. A few wins.
Other than this past weekend. We won't talk about it.
We just ignore Tennessee State's, but the rest, it's mostly good.
It's been good.
And he's not even an adult yet.
Yeah, for real. He's on his summer vacation from high school.
Turning 18 later this year.
Very end of the year, yeah.
Does that mean you get to play Junior Masters now?
Ooh, Junior Masters. Haven't
The
heard of
year
that
you
one.
turn 18?
I guess so, yeah.
Can you play MJ 18? Or once you play NPO,
he could. But we had this conversation last time you were on the podcast.
I got the monies, so I can't.
Right.
But,
Well, you could have, but you made a conscious decision. Let's be
Yes.
fair. You made a conscious decision that you were going to compete because you made it onto the touring team, the tournament team with Prodigy, and so you were fully committed. And because we've had you on a couple times,
Right.
And dude, and I feel like 2020 was a weird year for everybody. There's a caveat there that we need. That's a qualifier that needs to be stated. 2020 was a weird year for everybody. And you had a weird year too, because
Yes.
it was like I think you were kind of coming into some things with your real life outside of disc golf. And then also, how hard was it to even pick a tournament to go to? You couldn't really like commit to travel plans because you didn't know if you were going to be like on your way there and find out that they shut it down, So, and then because at the time, your transportation thing, you just got your license recently and been driving yourself around. So, yeah, how do you feel about because obviously anybody can pull up your player profile on PDGA website and see what 2020 looked like for you. But what are your, coming off of that year and how well you've been playing this year, what are your kind of thoughts and perspectives on that?
Well, I think you'll notice a big difference between 2020 and 21 for me because, my talent, my skills have kind of remained constant throughout the 2 years. I mean, it's just a matter of my mental game has improved a lot. I've been practicing more. I've been more consistent. I've had more time to dedicate to disc golf. I think that's been a big part, and I think that kind of leads into a lot of the successes that I've had this year. So I think it's just more of honing in my skills this year compared to last year, where I was kind of occupied with some other things. So
Yeah.
glad to be able to refocus this year.
They say practice makes perfect, and I guess to get a little glimpse into Harper's near future here, I was asking him before we started what the next little bit of time holds, because he just finished his junior year in high school. He's going to spend the summer touring, and then I guess after his senior year, I asked him if he was going to college or going pro, and both, it sounds like. So hopefully get to college and at the same time start hitting some of those pro tour events and show more than just our region down here in Tennessee what he's all about.
And you got an application into Vanderbilt. That's pretty big news.
Lame school.
We only work there.
Yeah, so hopefully follow the Calvin Heimberg path to things, a little education, a little frisbee,
A little from column A and then some from column B.
Yeah.
Sampling. A nice even sampling of life. No, but that's dope. And John, we've like we mentioned earlier, you've not been on the show before, but we've mentioned you quite a few times on the show because of the Doc versus Doc challenge. Also, we had Griff on the show a couple times, former course captain and TD at Seven Oaks Doubles, and you and Mike, I guess, have kind of like shared the shouldering of those responsibilities since Dave has kind of gone into retirement.
Yeah, that's accurate.
But you've been the guy there every time I've showed up, and
I mean, I do more. I mean, I do the signups.
he's like more of a course guy, and you do more like the.
He just got his new
administrative
lawnmower, so if you show up to the course, there's a decent chance he's mowing, not out of burden, out of joy.
I think that's a great idea, though, to have like the two of you guys that duality. Like
We make a formidable team,
yeah, for sure.
and feels like a good segue. I mean, he was my co-TD for the Seven Oaks tournament. I don't know if you want to talk about that or.
Yeah, we're totally going to get into that. Okay. I was just like catching the audience up on
Gotcha.
you
Yes.
in case anybody's not
Yeah,
familiar.
I've been playing. I mean, I'm from Georgia originally. I moved to Nashville in 2009 when I started at Vanderbilt. That was a fake bad mouth. I have a degree
Well, we
from
both work
Vanderbilt,
there.
and you and I both still work there. Joined the disc golf community, or the weekly scene in probably 2017. Have always loved Seven Oaks. Grew up playing Seven Oaks and Crockett, which Harper's also very familiar with, and dove into the weekly scene and loved the doubles and the competitive aspect, and feels like one thing that people kept telling me was, if you want to get better, play with people who are better than you, which was easy for me because that was everybody. So I was like, anyone I'm partners with, I'm going to get better. And so really grateful to kind of be one of the, I guess, captains at Seven Oaks, and yeah, pretty cool.
That's another interesting parallel that we all have is Crockett Park, because that's where I learned how to play. And I went out there, and the first person that I ever ran into was Taylor Kaysen.
One of the best guys in Tennessee.
Absolutely.
I don't know him that well, but the few times I've hung out with him, it's always been rock solid. And I believe he was one of the. I played on the same car with James K-Man Kuykendall the other day.
Caveman.
And he was reminiscent about the 7 at 7 crew at Seven Oaks, which is a group of 7 guys. I believe Friday mornings at 7 a.m. would get together and for community and fellowship and bromance, and
really the pioneering model behind the structure that we still employ in the Nashville area now, where every course has a course captain and a course crew that is built around that course captain, and they take care of the regular maintenance and upkeep that Metro doesn't do at the courses. And then when there's a big need or a big project that's coming up, they communicate with the club. The club provides resources, manpower, that kind of thing. That's how it should work.
For sure.
And Seven Oaks is, and that's something that I've always been that has kept me really passionate about the Nashville community, is that we've kind of set an example and set a standard in a lot of ways for the way things are being adopted now. I mean, for the last 2-3 years, people hit me up out of the blue all the time. Like, how do you guys do this? How do you guys do this? How does it work in Nashville? And people see how it works here because they come to play our tournaments and they see how well everything is kind of put together. And that's just because our community is rock solid.
Yeah, it's almost a disservice to list the people, because you're inevitably going to forget some. But people like Mike and Lance Kirby and
Fresh, and Billy,
yeah, Billy Fowler deserves a ton of
Griff, and there's way too many to list.
A lot of great guys that keep the blood flowing through the course's veins.
Yeah, and this has always been. There have been times, especially when Facebook enabled live video function, and I started employing that for the club advertisements. I was criticized for like trying to get too much attention, but I was just like, man, look, we're doing awesome stuff here. And the more people that know about it, that can see it, the more they're going to not only want to be a part of it, but they're also going to want to do it where they're at for their own community. And the proof is in the pudding, because now I've kind of stepped away from all the administrative stuff, but I'm still working with like Justin Morris out in Lyles, Tennessee, the Broken Still guys. They've gotten approval from the Parks Department in Lyles to put in a disc golf course at McCord Park. So I'm about to release a video promoting that. We're going to have whole sponsorships available. We're going to put an actual like public course in out there. So yeah, and that's just how things grow. It's awesome.
Hell yeah.
And speaking of things growing, we mentioned that you have kind of taken the reins at Seven Oaks, at least for the mainstay Seven Oaks doubles every Tuesday night. That has happened historically. A recent development, and maybe not so much recent as a long time in the making, but for many years when Seven Oaks was employed for the Music City Open before it grew to the level that it's at, there was kind of almost a safari-style layout at Seven Oaks for the Music City Open in an attempt to kind of stretch it out and make it more challenging for top-level players. And there were some people that loved it, some people that hated it. I was highly critical of it for many years and didn't like, it just didn't feel like Seven Oaks to me. And there were things missing that I loved and things added that I didn't love, and it just felt kind of janky to me always. And so I always was adamantly opposed to doing that. But in the spirit of like many big tournaments and courses now, like you saw what happened at Dynamic Disc Open this year, where they took Jones West, Jones East, and made Jones Gold, championship layout incorporating elements of both courses. You and Mike bumped heads and came up with a gold championship layout at Seven Oaks called Seven Oaks Gold.
Yeah, we struggle with the name.
It makes sense, though. It's good to keep it simple.
Yeah,
That
was goal number one.
You can tack it down. People can pass it along. You can put a hashtag on it. But anyway, I think that I was immediately on board because I knew you guys were taking a comprehensive look at the whole course and all the area available, and not just how can we take our 1 through 21 and make that different. You guys used some parts of the alternate 9. So tell us a little bit about what you did. What was the name of the event? How many players did you have? Because people came from everywhere to play it, and I heard nothing but rave reviews about it.
Yeah, it was almost overwhelming, the positivity surrounding the event. Mike and I probably first discussed it back in February. I went to him, and I was like, let's do this, and he had been thinking about it for a while, so I showed him, I still have the scorecard that I had written on the back, which I called Seven Oaks Gold and 1 through 18, and a few holes changed from there. But as you said, it's an 18-hole course, par 66, incorporating both sides of the Seven Oaks property. And as you said, one side is the main 21-hole layout, and the other side is just the other side of open park that is publicly used for anything and everything. And
people doing donuts and drugs and shooting at each other and fireworks and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yes, and occasionally disc golf a couple times a year in the bag tag and other events.
Freddie Memorial, E1. Yep.
And so there were some pins there, and so it was kind of a combination of not just the longest hole available, but most of the holes on the main layout, plus some on the open to give people like Harper and other pros that can actually throw it 500 feet, but not just 500-foot smash after 500-foot smash for all 18 holes, but a really nice hybrid of technical wooded golf, but also some nice let it rip situation. And so we came up with Seven Oaks Gold, and yeah, so how many people signed up for it? I remember thinking, I told Mike when we opened registration on March the 1st that I didn't think 20 people were going to sign up. I legitimately thought that. And then it filled up when we were going to open it for AMs if needed to help fill the slots, because we wanted to raise some money for the course because there's tee pad issues. We'd like to get some new tee signs, which are from probably the original signs from 1988 or 1989, or 1989. And so I was like, well, we'll open it up to AMs to guarantee some course money, but we never got the chance because it filled up with only pros. And so we had 72 people. I think we had 40 MPO and 28 pro masters, and then 4 brave ladies took on the FPO division. So that was an awesome thing to see a pro event fill up with 72 pros. It was a 2-round, 1-day, unsanctioned tournament with shotgun start, which also that format got was really well reviewed, including from Harper and many of the other pros that played there. We were free to do whatever we wanted to with the payout, and so we had 100% payout, which we paid out to, I think it came up to 19% of the field, and so we had some nice payout for some people. I think spoiler alert, Snappy won the event, and I think he got almost just under $1,000. And so it was really great to see. The feedback was amazing, and so I think the future is bright for the gold layout. It can't stay in all year, unfortunately, and so it's already down. Those baskets on the other side of the course can't stay up because
they get run over by cars.
The aforementioned donuts will take them out.
We've had like 2 of those baskets getting welded for the last 3 years.
So yeah, but the future's bright. Will and I have already discussed, possibilities for using it for other types of events in the future, but the Seven Oaks Open will always exist as the I say this now, but the unsanctioned pro tournament, but to get some other sanctioned pro events there for all ages alike, I think is going to be a welcome sight. And Harper played it, and he finished. What'd you finish?
Who knows?
4th, 5th,
near last cash, but
never tie for last cash, ladies and gentlemen.
I think like 8th, maybe. But yeah, it was
true story.
It was a great track. Like it was just something where, like from a player's perspective, where I didn't feel like it was trying to do too much. I didn't feel like it was losing the originality of the course. It really was like the best of both worlds between the original and the alternate. And you think there's about 7 open holes and 11 wooded holes. I feel like that's so true to what Seven Oaks is. Even the 7 open holes, it doesn't take away from what Seven Oaks provides. So really, it was just a great way to just like almost pay homage to the course but still make it the best way it can be for a top level pro event.
And I'll say, even for those open holes, it's not like it was just put a blindfold on and
rip
it. You had to avoid out of bounds. You had to
run us through the track a little bit. I was looking through my phone because I know that I had a graphic at some point. I don't know where it is, but of the map, but it wouldn't show up well enough here for it to matter anyway. But run us through how it played, because it was an 18-hole track, correct? But it was incorporating not just the layout of the original 1 through 21. And tell us how it kind of.
You want me to really quickly just run through it?
Yeah, just some little Cliff Notes version.
We played the hole 1 from a different spot over some out of bounds that you had to clear. Hole 2, we incorporated.
Everybody would understand. Hole 1 plays from the tee pad of Alt 1 up above by the playground. We can do visualizations like that. I didn't mean to criticize you.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah. And then hole 2 merged holes 2, 3, and 4 to make a 1,000-foot par 5 with some out of bounds. Hole 3, we played up from alt 5 to the top, or 5 alt, I should say, the alternate pad of 5. And then we played. It gets confusing because in the woods part of the course, hole 4 on the gold layout was hole 6, and so it's like your head would spin trying to. So hole 7 was hole 8, and hole 8 was hole 9, and
I remember trying to do commentary on an MCO video at one point when we started on hole 10. I think it was like 2017 MCO or something like that. So it's like, this is whole whatever for the event, but it's whole blah, blah, blah. It's hard to keep track of.
So that was difficult to keep track of. But, the 3 inners were there. And the first, I guess, real difference is once you got to hole 9 on Seven Oaks, we played from hole 9 to 18. And so kind of wrapping around, it's kind of a long par 4. Which Johnny Blaze said that was not an original hole, but I have to take his word for it because I'd never seen it before, but I think it had existed prior. Who knows? So we played 9 to 18, and then we played 11 to the long, and then probably one of the most beloved holes was hole 12 on the gold layout, was the Bend Northcutt hole at Seven Oaks, which is 14 from the top. And it's kind of ironic that because in the normal year, or just a normal day when there's not a tournament layup or a tournament layout at Seven Oaks, 14 from the top all the way long is the only really long challenging hole on that course. And we actually did not play that hole. We played 14 from the top to one of its original positions, because for those that don't know, hole 14 that people think about at Seven Oaks, the hole that you play after you finish 13, that pad was installed afterward. And hole 14.
Did you guys play to the near side of the creek or the far side?
The near side, yeah. There is a position on the far side of the creek that was that hole's original long.
Me and Kearns re-poured that sleeve back in like in the rain at the work party like 3 years ago.
So we played to the pin on the short side of the creek, which was loved. I thought it was going to be easy, but that hole actually averaged over par. Harper was a crazy person and threw a putter.
He is a little bit of a wild man.
Well, I can see right there it says best golfer in Tennessee under 20. So if the best golfer in Tennessee under 20 wants to throw a putter,
we went there. I don't know.
Then the really exciting thing was on the next hole, which was hole 13 of the gold layout, which is, for those that know the course, hole 16. We carved out a new fairway on the back right of that hole, and we played from 16 to 10's long basket. And so
and that hole kind of reminded me actually of Idlewild, and I will praise Idlewild over and over again, but that course, just that fairway, once you get in that landing zone and then have to shoot up that fairway, it just so reminded me of those fairways and that Creek OB. It just really reminded me, and even the uphill that you go through really did remind me of some of the better technical courses that I've played.
Pretty big compliment for sure. And actually, I guess it's good, really awesome. Not the first Idlewild comparison I heard. So that's pretty big praise. I also heard that it was the younger brother of the Cedar Hill 18, the new 18.
Oh, yeah.
A shorter version of that.
I mean, that's just such a freaking novel idea, man. I can't even imagine the kind of mad scientist thought process.
Because it's like we want to play it to a long pin, but 16 to the original long is not, it's like a not twoable bad par 4.
Right.
So it's like, well, let's make a better hole. And so the debate is it a gold par 4 or a softer par 5? Harper and I were just debating it. And I agree that ultimately its fate is a gold par 4. But it scored for the tournament 4.85. So it did average closer to the par 5. And that's because despite being a par 5, it had a lot of technical components to it. It was very landing zone specific. There were a couple holes, including Gold 15, which was the over the parking lot shot on the back, where it wasn't just a full, that one, if you're going for the green, is a grip it and rip it, but there's a lot of placement shots where if you want your birdie, put the disc in this spot. And the new hole that we cut out to go from 16 to 10, if you weren't in a 40-foot landing zone down the fairway, you didn't really have an aggressive shot to attack the fairway. I didn't play the tournament. Harper did. I'm not sure if you how you fared on that one.
Well,
but
I mean, if you think about it, that hole's like maybe 500 feet.
We measured it's 555.
555, yeah. It's really a mid-range shot off the tee, maybe fairway driver. You know, you're not going for full distance. You will outdrive the landing zone. So it's really placement. Then honestly, placement again on your second shot. You can go for the green, or you can play for, what I would consider a par 4. If you lay up, if you get the right landing zone shot, you can get across the creek on your drive. It really presents a lot of options that you need to bring yourself to, and I think that's the making of a great par 5 is you have decisions to make, you have landing zones to hit. It's not just throw it as hard as you can.
Because if you do, if you hit a tree and get in a bad spot, you're going to be adding a stroke to your score that hole. So I like the aspect of the.
You got to play golf.
Yeah. You got to almost not swallow your pride, but the hole would reward mid-range.
Right.
Yeah.
And you said par 4, whether that's a birdie 4, par 4, we'll see. But that gets to a good point, which is that I think there should be some holes in pro layouts where you feel great about a par.
Yeah. For sure.
So it's like
working man's 3.
Like you'll see when this coverage drops that our lead card for MPO round 2 was 4 down, 3 down, 3 down, 3 down. And so Harper was just kind of guessing that, what did you say, even par round would be what, 970, 980?
Yeah, I'd say 3 or 4 down would be about 1,000. And
that's a really interesting thing that you were able to pull off there, because one of the big pieces of commentary that we hear a lot when I think that the way that disc golf is developing and evolving is when it's criticized. One of the elements that is criticized is that, well, obviously the parallels are constantly being drawn between disc golf and traditional golf. But one of those things that people always point to is, what is a dozen down? That's ridiculous. That's absurd. It's too easy. If you're shooting a dozen down, if the winner at every tournament is a dozen down, that's too easy. And I think that's one of those areas where disc golf and traditional golf need to be separated thematically in our minds, because there's just some things that are not going to be the same there. But what you guys were able to do was develop a par structure on that championship layout that played more true to traditional golf standards of par. and where you score in relation to par. Because it's been a while since I've seen any kind of tournament with any kind of established professional field that played just a handful under par, and that was those were the leading scores.
Well, and it was done well in that when you get into that area where, just a few down is good, you can get into kind of gimmicky holes where you just land in like these artificial OBs, or, you just set up these holes that really don't reward good shots. Seven Oaks Gold was not like that. It was, you were playing good golf if you were shooting, 3 down or whatever it was, and you weren't getting excessively punished, which you'll see with some of the, tougher courses that really just inflate the scores unreasonably. That's not what was happening here. It was really just a track that, enforce good, tight lines, and that's what you want rather than just gimmicky holes that, throw random hazards at you for no reason.
We have the beautiful creek that runs throughout the entire property of Seven Oaks, which in casual weekly play is just casual, but it was nice to actually have the creek be out of bounds.
And it led to some decisions, like on the hole we were just talking about.
9 to 18.
Yeah.
Or no, the new one.
Yeah, the new 13, I think
13
it is.
on the gold, yeah.
Yeah, on 13, you could go over on your drive, and it would serve you, at least an easier upshot. And as you, alluded to, 9 to 18, if you have a good forehand, you can get over the creek, and that really incentivizes getting a 3. So really using that creek to your advantage to really force decisions, and as we're saying, these landing zones is really a great way to incorporate, what you have available to you on the course.
And we talked a little bit about Harper. You've got some experience now with events at the top level of the sport, and obviously you are a fan of the gold layout at Seven Oaks. How do you feel? I'm sure you've talked to other people, probably Blake and Snappy and everybody else, about how everybody else was that pretty much a consensus? Everybody felt like it was a really good pro level layout at Seven Oaks.
Truthfully, I've yet to hear a negative thing about the layout.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some even say that it is,
and I was waiting to, because
right.
Every time that we've done any kind of adjustment at Seven Oaks to get more top level players, give them more of an appropriate challenge, it's always been ripped apart by somebody that played it like, this isn't seven. Like Barry Schultz is a good one. He hated it. He hated the safari stuff that we did at Seven Oaks.
Well, it was cool this time around. You had, a bunch of pros playing it, so you really hear what some of the top guys are saying about it, and, not some people just being negative for the, for the fun of it. So, I mean, honestly, I heard many positive things. Lots of, like you mentioned earlier, comparisons to Cedar Hill, and how it kind of fits into the whole Nashville scene and how it is the pro level course.
I will say, so, I mean, I do play disc golf, but I'm not anything good, probably 920-ish rated on a good day. So it would have been foolish, in my opinion, to take on the design and the structure of the tournament without input from people that might play it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so I actually, to use Snappy Cole as an example, we texted quite a bit in the couple months leading up to the tournament, just kind of like saying, because Snappy and Joey are two of the best players in Tennessee, let alone the Southeast, and how cool would it be to get Snappy and Joey to come play this tournament? And they both came and got first and second place, not surprisingly.
Shocker.
But kind of going through not the design as much as the tournament structure. Like I said, it was an unsanctioned 2-round event, which they both loved. A lot of people loved that because, in control of the money and I guess all of the, not consequences, but all of the aspects of a sanctioned tournament we didn't really have. And so it was good to get not feedback, but opinions and input from people that are coming to play the tournament. And so, in my opinion, it'd be foolish not to solicit that type of advice.
For sure. And I feel like I should say, just from, I do have a little bit of insider knowledge, being that I'm friends with Sean Sinclair, and I kind of talk to the people at the PDGA pretty frequently, running for a spot on the board, if anybody wasn't aware of that.
Vote for Will.
Vote for me. But no, I know that they are paying attention to this, because I've mentioned, even in 2020, that was the whole thing when it was becoming really, really almost absurdly difficult for us to get our sanctioning back. And this is something I never expected, that me and HB would be working together collaboratively on something. And we were trying to get our sanctioning back in time for him to run Tennessee States and us to run the Solstice. And we were trying to pool our resources and contacts and figure out what we could do. And at one point, I pointed out, and probably selfishly and unprofessionally and childishly. But like, if you don't want to give us our sanctioning back, even though the state government is deferring to our local government has approved of our plan, says we're good to go. If the PDGA is the only entity telling us that we can't play, well, our most successful events have historically been unsanctioned. And it's for those reasons that the TD has final discretion on everything. There is not a stand. Now, it should be clearly mentioned here that this is not a criticism about the PDGA or what you have to do in order to achieve sanctioning, because when you're dealing with that volume of events, there has to be really strict standards. And we're at a very unique place in the growth of our sport right now where we're experiencing a lot of growing pains, and a lot of the areas where our tour standards, our competition manual, a lot of the things that we do as standard operating procedure, the ways that those need to be adjusted are just now really beginning to reveal themselves in really tangible ways. And everybody at the PDGA and all the other tournament directors and promoters are paying very close attention to what's going on, and we're all talking about it. So there are things that are going to be changing, and the PDGA definitely does want to see payouts get a little bit more top-heavy and deeper. And it's just one of those things where part of that includes some things and elements of strategy that are not going to be popular among the base. Like, because an element of it that is going to be necessary is another increase in the standard recommended entry fee. Because everything is going to continue to get more expensive, especially now you look at it, you can't get disc to begin with, and the world is at the very beginning of a petroleum shortage. So all plastic products are going to get more expensive and in higher demand. And we happen to run on an industry that operates on plastic. So things are going to continue to be weird, but this is how we figure it out. We let the impurities rise to the surface so we can see them and scrape them off and figure out how to best move forward. And this is a great thing. And I feel like the tendency of most people, like on social media and stuff, would be to look at this as like flying in the face of the PDGA or like an act of defiance or something. No, this is a shining example of how it can exist. And unsanctioned events that are successful and well thought out are necessary, not just for the communities that they happen in, but also for the development and the evolution of the PDGA, because it gives the PDGA a chance to look at what the people respond to and what works well, free of the constraints of PDGA sanctioning. And that doesn't happen a whole lot. You don't get to see examples of that very much anymore. So the fact that you did that with a really accurate par structure, and also we're able to cater to more of a top-level professional field for our region, all of those things are huge wins. And it's huge for Nashville. It's huge for Seven Oaks, man. As a person who calls Seven Oaks my home course, I love to see that. I love to see the pros getting excited about playing at Seven Oaks again. That is really encouraging to me.
Yeah, that was pretty badass. Telly, among others. We got extremely lucky. As you know, over the years, Seven Oaks has, despite its popularity, Mother Nature has not really ever been kind to it come tournament day. And the weather we got for the Seven Oaks Open was perfect.
Absolutely.
And
perfect.
so that set the stage. Obviously, if it had been raining the whole day, I'm guessing the vibe would have not been as good. But
or just miserably
the
hot.
people,
Like
it was May 1st, and so it was just perfect time of year, and everything was perfect. Telly called it one of the best Seven Oaks tournaments he's ever been in. Miami, who is super old for a middle-aged guy. I mean, he's been playing disc golf since 1990, I think. Said it was the best Seven Oaks tournament he's ever been at, and I don't know, Harper. What do you think about the unsanctioned versus sanctioned? Do you see? Obviously, there's room for both, but what do you think about this one specifically and other unsanctioned things?
I mean, the awesome part about it is the freedom just to do what you want. As you mentioned, I'm a big fan of the more elite, top-heavy payout. You shoot for that top. You're not shooting for middle of the pack.
$15 in 11th place. Yeah,
get below your entry fee back. That's just not, as a professional athlete. No matter,
it's almost like insult to injury. Like, oh, I already am disappointed in my performance, and now I got to take home $12.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice to have an unsanctioned tournament where you can do what you want. You can make it the way you want. And I think hole 1 wouldn't have followed PGA standards if I'm not mistaken.
No, it definitely wouldn't have.
Yeah, so just to do those things, and they still played fair, it's great. It's nice, and as you mentioned, it's a good balance. You have some PGA events, some unsanctioned. You can you can have them in harmony and it works together. And I think to this tournament's benefit, the unsanctioned format really worked out.
This is a dead horse that I often beat, but I've always felt strongly, and this is always a big part of my philosophy and strategy with administrating the club, was I feel like disc golf should exist at all levels for all people. It should be all things to all people. If you want to elevate your game and get really good and put in the work and be able to go on tour, then your club or your local scene should provide you a pathway to do that. If you just want to play casually with the same 3 buddies once a month, well, you should have a weekly event that only costs a few bucks to play that you can go out to and you know is going to be running. You should have the big major elite series events in your area. You should have the unsanctioned series, the unsanctioned. I mean, and really, and again, this isn't like a slight against the PDGA, but like it's the same thing as like me always wanting to run tournaments at Ogwood. You know what I mean? It's private property. So you don't. There's a certain amount of liberty there that comes only with being on a private course or being on private property, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like with less supervision and less requirements and restrictions, you're really able to push the envelope and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Well,
when
it's cool
you're,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that with a course as old as Seven Oaks and as many things that have been done with it throughout the years, it's nice to do something new and see like a new shot of life into it.
But it's cool too, like even this being like the first year of the event, it still had all the prestige of like a well-established B tier.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. When you have great competitors like Snappy, Joey, Logan, like it just
Justin
felt
Bennell.
competitive. Justin,
Former NT winner
Harper
Justin
Thompson.
Bennell,
Yeah.
Harper Thompson,
and that
Harper
person,
freaking
yeah.
Thompson.
up and comer out of Chattanooga, Aiden Scott. We had a lot of good.
Aiden.
Yeah,
Aiden's
I
a
mean, you
baller.
just have all this competition, and like you said, sometimes Nashville brings in great crowds for these unsanctioned tournaments, and it feels just as important, just as competitive as, you know, a well-established tournament.
Yeah, and
And,
that's a big part of it is who's there and who's running it.
What was I about to say? Something profound. I swear it was going to be profound.
Did I work you in your backswing? Just a little bit.
Oh, so the course was installed in 88 or 89. I always forget which year.
89,
From
I think it was final.
Steve Hardy, Ken Folger, the main course designers. And Steve Hardy still plays, I think, 365 days a year.
Oh yeah,
That's
all he
and
does.
still as good a putter as almost anyone. When he's on, his on is as good as a lot of people's on. And when Mike and I were meeting frequently before the tournament to, like, for example, cutting out the new fairway on Gold 13, which is the back half of Seven Oaks 16, Hardy was there almost every day, and he had loppers, and he was ripping up honeysuckles and giving us opinions. There was a couple trees, obviously, that we had to take down. Debate for another day whether we need to take more down, but there was really only one tree that was kind of like a RIP. There was a really nice, healthy cedar that had to come down. It was in the way of every entry into the second half of the hole, and so that one we, got Hardy's opinion, and he agreed.
We'll edit
so,
this part out so Metro doesn't.
Oh, sorry, Metro.
Metro doesn't cut trees. I don't know if you heard.
I'll just stop talking and say thank you, Steve Hardy, for
They
your,
don't watch this shit. Come
Hardy's
on.
got a Hardy's
Now I got to put the profanity thing back up.
he's a 4-digiter, Hardy, and he was just his age with his skill, with his passion for the sport, is just an awesome thing to see. He's got to be almost 70 at this point.
I was waiting to see where you were going to go with that, dude.
Is he
I
only-
was
is
like,
he only like
how
54?
how offended is Steve going to be when he sees
I hope he's
this?
only 54, and I just really screwed up.
He's been 39 12 times.
Okay, if he might be like 62. I mean, in whatever he is, he's young.
honestly,
whatever he is, he's younger than that.
Is muscular and as bronzed as he is. I mean, I would have to say that he's got to be aging well, because I know he has a very healthy regimen that he follows. So he's probably, honestly, much older than he looks. He's probably like he could be a vampire. He could be Count Dracula.
Sorry, Steve, if you're listening.
Love you, Steve. No, I just got a Steve Hardy hug yesterday. It was dope. Made me feel a lot better. No, but that's I mean, everybody here in Nashville especially is passionate about Seven Oaks. But, I mean, Seven Oaks is not only the most popular course in Nashville, it's the most popular course in Tennessee, and it has been for many years. It's the most frequented, most trafficked course in the entire
I got a
state
shout
of
out
Tennessee.
since Jomez has been doing those practice rounds where they just like record Yuli and Germ and Nate practice round.
Jerome was talking about Cedar
Sure,
Hill.
yeah,
and-
someone was like, "Yeah, Seven Oaks," and Yulee was like, "Yeah, it's really fun there." And so I think those guys, the legitimately top 10, 20 pros in the world would have fun at the Seven Oaks Gold. So
I think so, and I think there are some logistics things that will definitely have to be worked out. And I don't know. I mean, and this is always the thing for me, and I feel like this is something that's often maybe not overlooked, but not articulated as thoroughly as it could be. Is establishing and really putting thought into what is the goal, like building an event around what the goal of that event is. You know, like for Music City Open, like it was always, this is our signature event for Nashville, so we want as many people here as possible. We want all the courses in play. We want all divisions. We want everybody to come play this, and we want to make it as big as we can. And so that's the path that we've followed with Music City Open. But where I feel like a lot of people immediately go to is because right now Music City Open is the biggest event we have. So everybody's like, this is the best course we've got. This needs to be in the Music City Open. And to me, I'm like, well, just because it might, I'm not going to say it can't be this, and I'm not going to say it isn't this. I'm saying like, let's understand, like if we have something truly special on our hands, let's make it special and let's build around it in a way that showcases how special it is. And let's not bastardize it by trying to force it into a box that it doesn't exist within. Because I think that's the mistake that has been made with Seven Oaks in the Music City Open before, is that it was kind of changed in ways that weren't necessarily the most appropriate ways in order to fit a mold that had presented itself. And I think people kind of defaulted to that mold as though it was the only mold available. But we're at a point now where, like, this year we're hosting the National Tour finale. That's not the last big event we're going to have. And I've talked about this a little bit in smaller circles, and I like to give out some exclusives on the podcast because it's a small audience core group that really follows this stuff. But as soon as we've got the NT under wraps, my next move is putting in a bid for the Masters World Championship in Nashville.
I think you mentioned this to me a few weeks ago.
Because I want to show not only just the Masters, the age-protected players, but I want to show the rest of the disc golf world how a Masters World Championship can look, and how it should look, and how it should be presented and showcased, and how they should be treated. And I want to do it big. Explosions, fireworks, all that stuff. And I want to give those players something that they will love, an experience that they will truly love, and that is appropriate for them and is molded around them. And I really feel strongly that the move might just be a Cedar Hill Seven Oaks Gold combo for a Masters World Championship.
I mean, that was a lot of the conversation right after the tournament. We weren't discussing, for what. Just imagine the idea of a tournament that was Cedar Hill long and Seven Oaks Gold. That's about as demanding of a technical combo.
And the reason I'm that immediately, because I've had the idea to put in for a Masters World Championship for quite some time now, but the reason that my mind immediately goes to Cedar Hill and Seven Oaks Gold is because those two courses, like you were saying, it is an even mix. And this is always the constant debate on the tour now is everything's a golf course. Everything's a wide open field. There's no real golf. There's no woods golf. Or then you have the woods golf and then other people complain about that. But those even mix events and courses, those are really hard to come by. Those are like needles in haystacks. And we've got an opportunity there to do just that. Perfectly balanced, open, technical, wooded kind of event with two courses that play and complement each other very well for a very specific audience. These are the best golfers in the world. They've been doing it the longest. And they may be past the point where they're throwing 600-700 feet off the tee pad every other throw. But they're the best golfers that are on the field. They're the people that have inspired all the players now that we're just throwing gobs of money at all the time.
Right.
And we just pump more money into MPO because there's a guaranteed return there because there's an already built-in demographic audience there. But that audience can exist with all the other demographics. I think the problem is that what ends up happening is there are these limited fields for certain divisions and certain groups at these big tournaments because the tournaments are built to cater to everybody. So you only have so much room that you can spare. And it's always like a supply and demand kind of thing with registration. And so you don't have the time to give these people to incentivize them and promote it to them and tell them why they should come. And so, and then it always ends up feeling like you only care about the pros. You're only after the pros. And it doesn't matter if your MP40 field is only 8 players. You know what I mean?
I think I was aware that there was a Masters Worlds, but not in any sort of like, oh, this is a prestigious event.
It's one of the majors.
But is it?
Yeah.
Well,
it's one of the majors. But here's the thing, and you can go back and watch the episode we recently did with J Ray, but this is one of the things that J Ray and Steve Rico and a lot of the people that play in the MP40 circuit on tour have often complained about is that when they get their major, when they get their world championship, they go there and it feels like a C tier. There's no cameras, there's no galleries, there's no glitz and glamour, no showcasing. It's presented as an afterthought almost, or at least that's the way they're made to feel. And a lot of people want to immediately jump to, well, you're just complaining too much. You're a curmudgeonly old blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, no, man, nobody should feel like that at an event that is supposed to showcase their field. You know what I mean? And if you present it as though you're not interested in it, like if you're one of the people presenting it, and you build your presentation and showcase in a way that suggests that you're not that interested in it, nobody else is going to be interested in it either. It takes a conscious investment.
And that's why I always advocate for media coverage of age protected in both directions, juniors and masters. Like, I think that's kind of the best way. I mean, people eat up disc golf media coverage. I mean,
and who doesn't want to watch kids?
Yeah,
the juniors players always
and masters too. Like they, as you mentioned, some of the most like just technically skilled guys you'll ever watch play. If you just get them attention. The disc golf, like media watchers are the most dedicated viewers of any sport by far.
Yeah, they will watch anything.
They'll watch anything. And these guys, like, if you just give the attention, you can realize that you have something special here with these guys, and good production teams out there could really be something that, we need in our sport.
And you just touched on something that really kind of helps me pin down why I get so... I don't know if offended is the word, but I get so animated about, like, I get really kind of offended about that treatment being placed on the Masters. And to me, I think the reason, and I'm just now kind of realizing it based on what you said, is I feel like it's offensive for the people creating the media or lining up the media to say or decide what we're interested in.
And also, like
say, well, there's no interest in... Oh, no, the interest is there.
If you give it the prestige, a Jomez or whatever. And Masters Worlds, if I'm not mistaken, is usually like a standalone tournament.
Oh, yeah, there's not usually an A tier attached to it.
Why are no, media teams flocking to cover that? Like, Jomez should be all over that. I know they're mostly MPO, but like Jomez, Central Coast, like, what if you had 3 cards of Masters coverage? Think of how awesome that would be at Masters Worlds. You have Michael Johansson. He is just as competitive in MPO as he is MP40. Johnny McRae, as we mentioned. Some of these guys would dominate in MP40 and MPO. Patrick Brown.
And do.
Like, yes. They do week in and week out. They can decide on their own will. I can do this. I can do this. Either way, I'm making money and I'm finishing well. So...
it's a trickle-down thing because the sponsorship, like, you've got your requirements that the PDGA has on running a major. So you've got to come up with this amount of added cash. And now you've got to find sponsorship to come up with your added cash and the money that you're going to put into the purse. Well, it's hard to drum up sponsorship for an event that sponsors or potential sponsors know is not going to get a whole lot of attention.
Right.
So you're not going to get anybody to give you $5,000 to $10,000 in one go when there's not going to be any cameras on it, or if the cameras there are not established media providers that aren't going to get 1 million plus views. So that's where it starts. And then now you're the TD, and you're just trying to put all the money that you've been able to drum up into paying these guys out in a way that they deserve. And because of that, you can't afford to pay media to come, whereas like with a national tour event, the PDGA provides a media package. You don't have to pay for it. They're sending all the media. So you can supplement, you can raise money and pay your local guys. Like we bring in Howard, we bring in you. Like, we can do that on our own initiative. But they provide 3 cards of MPO, 2 cards of FPO. That's all taken care of. I don't know what the media package is for the majors or for the Masters World specifically, but I know that these guys have unilaterally in conversation with me and other people. It just seems to be a consensus that they just not getting.
Is that a rotating event?
Yeah, you have to bid on it. Yeah.
So it changes. Okay, well, I guess
And
just like
it's a
Worlds is
pretty
different
new
every-
event too, right? They just established this in the past.
I mean, there's been a Masters Worlds for a while, but it probably, I want to say, and I could be way
I think
off
they
base,
separated it pretty recently.
within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And that'll always be rotating, right? So even if Nashville wins the bid, it'll only be here for next year.
Yeah, unless I bid on it twice and I do a good job.
Well, you
know.
had like Emporia do the multi-year deal with Junior World, so maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. Just throwing ideas out there.
It takes somebody being able to knock it out of the park,
right?
And that's like why there's a lot of things that I could do with the NT here, but it's our first year on the stage, and so it's like you really want to make sure that they are confident that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's and meeting all of their expectations. And do it one time, and then you have confidence. Then you have established trust where, if you come up with something that sounds a little harebrained to them, they're going to be much more likely to be like, okay, yeah, well, sure. There are some things that you can present to the PDGA in your first pulling off of an Elite Series event that they're going to be like, I don't know, we haven't seen you do this yet, But with the Masters World Championship, I feel like, man, not only do we have so many good Masters players here in Nashville and in the area, I mean, you talk about between here and Birmingham, I mean, like...
Is that a 4-round tournament, the Masters
I believe
World?
so.
So, yeah, I mean, not that you need my support, but however I can support it, Mike and I would definitely love to help,
And one of the unique things is because you can run that tournament without an accompanying A tier, so you don't have 1,000 other players that you have to be managing and catering to. You can focus specifically on the few hundred Masters players that are cycling between our two best courses, our two most beloved courses. And it will probably be, I believe it's a 3-year bid process. So it will give us time because we're about to undertake a T-pad renovation at Cedar Hill. Something similar would need to happen at Seven Oaks. We would have to modify and repair some T-pads to make them...
Some of them.
Up to snuff. Some of them. I'm thinking of a handful of key ones. But also, you have to understand, too, that the standard for this size of event now, the PDGA Tour standards, calls for bigger T-pads. So these are all considerations, but we'll have a 3-year time span where we are able to come up with a plan and get all that stuff taken care of. That's the whole idea, though, is that you have this event that caters to this one field. You can really make it special. You have the time to put into it. Plus, Nashville, Music City Disc Golf, we have an established reputation and a standard that we've set now, where when we go to somebody and we say, this is what we want to do, everybody's like, yes, how can we help? And I really feel that something like that, utilizing the gold layout that you guys came up with, could really be a way to put Seven Oaks on a stage for the new generation of disc golfers in a relevant way. And because right now, obviously, it's a beloved historic course for us, but it's a locals play it kind of course.
Well, and there's probably, I mean, this is new, like Seven Oaks Gold. Some would almost say is an oxymoron. Like going back to German Yuli talking about it in coverage. Like someone like them, if you told Yuli, oh yeah, there's a new Seven Oaks Gold, you might be like, I mean, the Seven Oaks that he's thinking of is a fun, aesthetically pleasing course, but not one where shooting 4 down is considered an achievement.
Par 54 as opposed to 66.
Yeah,
Big difference.
Yeah, just to kind of show, that was honestly my original first intent of the layout was I want people to see that Seven Oaks has teeth, and there's out of bounds that we can not, as Harper said,
not manufacture.
Yeah,
but
we don't have any artificial out of bounds there. Mike and I both agreed at the start that we didn't want to paint any OB in the woods because you're already in the woods. Masters, juniors, current pros, there's something appealing for everybody about the gold layout, and
totally,
I'm happy that it exists now, and for people like young Harper here to shred it. Quick mention, you'll see on the coverage that drops in the next couple of days, we had a couple par 5s on the course. I'm a stats guy, and hole 17, which was a pretty gnarly par 5, was eagle 3'd by one man in the field. And that one man in the field is the best golfer in Tennessee under age 20. And he said it felt like an eagle 3. And so on the new hole, gold 13, which is the new hole that we cut out, I think there was only 3 threes on that hole. Shout out to Blake Stanley and Will Traverse, and I forget who else threed it. And I don't think anybody threed hole 2.
I didn't see any.
the other par 5. Not a single 3 on that one. So not just me as a mad scientist saying success. No one 3'd it.
Excellent.
But I saw the snapshot. Maybe we can share the photo that whoever that was that took that photo of you on hole 17. But there's a picture of Harper's upshot on. I call it an upshot, but it was a 450-foot absolute full flight D1, wasn't it?
D2.
D2, just insane shot. Skip off the road, I heard.
Yeah, on the road, under the branches.
You'll see when you see it, just an absolutely filthy shot.
Gross.
But when you're 1,000 rated, also hopefully valedictorian from, you don't go to Brentwood High. Where do you go?
Yeah,
Brentwood High. So I asked him how many. Not that we know the answer, but it would be cool to know how many 1,000 rated disc golfers were valedictorian in their high school. Harper might be a one of one there.
Don't jinx it.
Oh, I guess.
Why not?
Oh no, you're.
I don't know, man. There's some brainiacs.
Well, your school is so big that you're going to have 15
Yeah,
valedictorians.
15 valedictorians.
My graduating class.
Yeah,
in
gum.
2000,
How many kids go to school?
We have our graduating class is like 415.
And he was like, "Oh, it's not that big." And I went to Augusta Christian in Augusta, Georgia, and graduated in 2005. We had 53. I was the salutatorian, not one of the 18 salutatorians. And shout out to Tanya, the valedictorian.
I think we had a total of like 1,200 people in our school, like all grades. I think there was probably close to like 50, 60 of us that graduate, like in each graduating class. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, man, Oaks Gold is dope. And that's another thing. I mean, people's perceptions and the way stuff gets kind of tossed around on social media. Calling it Seven Oaks Gold or a gold layout at a course that has previously not had one, that's going to be kind of a promotional double-edged sword. Because there are a lot of people that were highly critical of the Jones Gold course at DDO this year. And by all the accounts that I heard, it was maybe too soon to pull the trigger on that in that size of an event. And so that's always a concern. When you use a course that has existed as long as Seven Oaks has in a new way, you always kind of are terrified at some point in your soul, like, oh God, what if everybody hates it? You know what I mean? But you guys did the right thing by talking to players as you were developing it, and everything I heard was good. But it's one of those things, it's like you talk about Seven Oaks Golf, they'll be like, oh God, here we go, more safari golf at Seven Oaks.
Well, I will say it didn't deviate too much from like what we've seen before. Like I didn't see any holes where I was like, what is going on here? I was just like, oh, okay, this is something new. This is something fresh. And I think that worked in a way that Jones Gold didn't exactly see fleshed out. You kind of just threw holes together, at least from just seeing it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But
it was still Seven Oaks.
Exactly, and that's the point. And you kept it in the name, kept it in the layout, and I think that's how it should be. And 11 of those holes were just like, yeah, this is Seven Oaks.
A point about the layout that we were discussing before we turned the mics on, there were a couple holes. So for those that know, Inner 3, for example, has a well-known long pin that is probably one of the hardest twos on the course.
Yeah.
But we played that to the A pin, the short pin right at the base of Pappy, the big tree. And I didn't like it at first, but Mike pushed it, and after thinking about it, it was a great idea because it comes right on the heels of Inner 2, which played to the long and was also the hardest hole on the course to par, almost a full stroke over par 3. But you get to Inner 3, you got this 250-foot must get, and so you're not thinking about how do I get through this gap 450 feet away. You're thinking, how do I throw this technical 250-foot shot to get this birdie that I have to get? And so I heard a lot of feedback from a lot of players saying that they were feeling ironically, some extra nerves on that tee pad because I got to get this.
Yeah.
And and it's not an easy deuce.
And it's a common mistake to fall into the trap of, I got to make everything as difficult as it possibly can be. It's no, you throw in some holes that, again, have that pressure of, I must get this. Think of hole 6 at Smuggler's Notch. That's one of those ones on tour that it's like, I should get this every time. And there's a pressure there. There's a necessity for that type of hole. And I think that really does a great job of incorporating that when if you put in the long, then you're just going to get a bunch of bogeys.
The difficulty just isn't necessarily in the execution of the disc golf shot. It's in what's going on between the ears when you're standing on the tee pad. Yeah. I have to execute this easy disc golf shot. And when you don't, you might not birdie the next hole, or you're still thinking about it, and all of a sudden you missed the 30-footer on the next hole.
Well, I think the big win here, man, and what made this successful where other kind of manipulations and iterations of Seven Oaks have failed in the eyes of the players who participated on it, is that this was like a comprehensive it was designed as a new course over all this space that we have been using. Because, I mean, in the last 3-4 years, we've used the 30-hole layout or the Alt 9 many times. And so that it's kind of become more of a frequent thing. So now that area, at least feel-wise and vibe-wise, it's almost like it's more a part of Seven Oaks now than it was maybe 5 years ago. And so what I think you guys were able to really do well, where before it was almost like, well, this is a filler hole, let's just go ahead and skip this to make this one longer, and we'll go here, and then we just really want to get to Ben's hole on 14, so let's just go ahead and skip 13 and we'll take 12 over here, and it was always like a patchwork kind of solution to stretching out certain things and highlighting certain areas of the course, whereas what you guys did was started from the ground up, looked at it as a bird's eye view, overall property. This is all the space we have to use. This is what's currently in place. Let's make 18 holes out of this whole space. How can we do that most efficiently and in ways that make sense, and also tastefully and thoughtfully? And because there was nothing, I looked at the map and tried to pick it apart. I tried to find something that didn't make sense to me when I first saw you guys post it.
Couldn't do it.
And I was like, no, this all is reasonable.
Well, it flowed really well. There was no backups, and it honestly felt like I was playing a course that had been there for a while. Like, it was really just like I felt very almost comfortable at the course, even after I hadn't even played a full practice round. I was like, yeah, this just makes sense. And so it just felt that way from the start, just even being so new. It just felt comfortable. It felt smooth.
Wiley said he had 18 favorite holes. So
that's a good criticism.
There you go. I don't know. Are we? How's our time?
We're at an hour, man. We can cut it. We can wrap it up whenever you want.
Well, I was just going to say, not to kind of. Well, I'll mention a Debbie Downer thing, and we can come back to a cheery thing before we finish. But the future of the property, for those that don't know, that there is a tiny strip of land. In the Gold Layout's case, it would have been hole 16 or Alt 4, for those of you that know the alt side of the course. That stretch of property is airport owned. And so Mike and I have discussed...
Is that the spot on the other side of the
road?
The road where we use the super long one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That whole... so we're basically playing on airport property, the very edge of the property, because as soon as you get to that road that it runs alongside, it's park and not airport.
Right.
And so Mike was telling me that the airport's got plans to expand or start utilizing some more of those outer banks of its own property. And so... fingers crossed, but hopefully that will happen cohesively, I guess, for lack of a better word. And
I don't see a world where they come up with some way they can use that.
Well, if they put a barbed wire fence along the side of that road, and literally you can't ever go over there, that would certainly.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, they're not going to use it for like a runway. No. But I don't know what they'd be using it for.
Well, I don't see anything on the other side of those trees that they.
It's all. I mean. Another side note, in those woods and kind of the woods that run alongside the next hole, Alt 5,
there's some good stuff.
A ton of good stuff back there. So we'll see, but hopefully the airport, I don't even know if expansion is the right word, but hopefully we get to continue to use that, because that hole is an important hole.
Yeah, man, it seems like you guys have been able to make some really tasteful long holes, like the 1,000-foot par 5s at Seven Oaks. I never thought I'd see that.
2,000 footers.
They're not all just like bomber holes. Like most of them,
you got twists and turns through woods.
I was trying to think, oh gosh, where do I place it? Where do I put it?
Placement on a 1,000-foot hole.
You're not like, it's not like Jomez round 2 where they did that little sketch where it's like roller. It's not like that. You're
accidental roller.
Yeah.
Roller.
Did you throw a roller or air shot on hole 2?
Hole 2.
To the first par 5.
I went roller there.
I think
don't throw a lot of rollers, but that one just screams roller.
That tree line cutting across half of the fairway, that would be scary.
That's a hole that I want to see Garrett Gerthy play, because I guarantee him and Eagle. Well, I don't know. I don't guarantee. I would think Garrett would try to go over the top of that tree, which is probably a 600-foot shot necessary.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have 600, you're not clearing that
Calvin
tree.
might do it.
He can't. I mean, Calvin can smash, but he's not getting over. I think you need at least Garrett's power to even challenge that.
Calvin has surprised me, though. Do you remember the 1,300-foot par 5 that we had at Ravenwood in 2019?
I do.
And we're like, nobody's...
The uphill one?
Yeah, where it went all the way down and then back up the hill. He eagled that.
No way.
Or birdied it. Whichever one.
I think it was birdied.
Yeah, 2 people birdied it the whole tournament, and he was one of them. I think it was...
Because Eagle's not possible.
It was him and Dickerson.
Yeah.
It was Calvin and Dickerson were able to birdie that. They were the only 2 people that birdied that hole the entire week.
Yeah.
But yeah, so any ideas right now? Obviously, the Seven Oaks Open is something that we're going to do every year. But do you have any ideas about the next time the Seven Oaks Gold might come around?
Nothing concrete. No. I mean, the Seven Oaks Open will be again in the spring, and I mean, like you said, there's a couple year bid process for the Masters World, and so the Solstice is already coming up, and obviously the layout's already been established for that, and I'm not even sure if the layout would even be appropriate for that type of event. But I don't know. I mean, open for whatever. I mean, I have a set of keys now, and between Mike and I, we can, with any sort of heads up, we can.
Well, I think honestly, we're at a point now, and you see like where we have a ton of tournaments that are opening up, and then they all fill up in 5 minutes, and it's always like a mad rush, and then you always end up with a jacked up field because there's a bunch of great players that just can't get in. And I think the answer to this is for more TDs to start running events that are field specific, that are like you have a pro and advanced only event, you have more AM only events, you have more events that are not overall like all divisions. You know what I mean? I think if we can limit those fields, you can you continue to add a premium and grow events. They don't all have to be 1,500 to 2,000 player events. You know what I mean?
So you're always in my not a counter, but as just an argument, a point, kind of supporting that is that because there's something really appealing about a pro only event. It was extremely satisfying to see it fill with the pros. But if the pros don't fill it, you're not going to have it's not gonna, like if it did fill up with only 20 people, it's like, well, that was a great success.
Well, this is that double-edged sword, because like for me, I'm always saying, well, the only reason I'm on Facebook is because I got to promote stuff. Well, then it got to where you didn't have to promote anything. You just posted it on DG Scene and it filled up. But now an intelligent promoter and tournament director can take these field-specific events, build them in a way that is enticing, that actually appeals to the players they're reaching out to, and especially here in Nashville, we can bring those players here if we put it out there in the right way. And it's the same thing as how you develop the course by talking to the players. Is this right? Is this wrong? Gauging like what is appropriate, or what do the players of this field that we're thinking about catering to? Because I'll tell you, pros aren't going to be the only people that want to play the pro layout at Seven Oaks.
You're right.
You can have an AM event on the gold layout. You just want to limit the field, maybe keep it to like 3 players in a group, but you can build standards and premiums by just limiting your field.
Absolutely.
And still...
I didn't mean that AMs don't belong on the gold layout. We
actually
had temporary talks.
I was just wanting to make sure, because people like to interpret a lot of things that I didn't actually say when I have this show on. So
we actually discussed briefly having an AM tournament the day after the pro tournament. It just never kind of arose.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, welcome for everybody for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that'd be a great. If it scored that difficult for the pros, it would be fun to see what some of those par fives average.
And Mikey, one of the things that he's great at, you could even entertain the idea of, if you're having an event on the Oaks Gold layout for a different field than has played it previously, or the field that the course was designed for, then redo the par structure, adjust it a little bit. You can do that if you're limiting the field and you're only targeting certain divisions. Mess with the par structure. My thing is, like, for MCO, this is the thing we've always tried to do, is you want the par structure to be the same for all the divisions that are playing it, but still be appropriate. And that's a hard tightrope to walk. But if you're playing with a pro and advanced field, or an only age-protected field, or an only AM field, you have more ability to customize something that's appropriate.
We made one small change because we were the hole 17, the last par 5 that Harper here got an eagle 3 on. It felt like it was the one hole that we thought that FPO should have a different pad, because it just felt like, I mean, it's like
punishing.
It's extremely punishing, and it's not about a gender difference. It's more about how do we make this a legitimately fair par 5 for FPO. So that was the one hole that we moved the pad up that hill and just through that clearing, and they all appreciated that change. But you also don't want to just get too crazy and say we got to have 10 different pads for the FPO, because they're like, we want to play the same course, and they did. And shout out to Alex Stewart and Abby and Ashley Burge and Kesley Sterner for being the brave ladies, and congratulations to Abby for chasing.
Yeah, those are diehards.
Yeah,
sure.
Abby is a disc golf nut.
Well, what you did with that tee pad, that is a perfect example of what more TDs need to be willing to do in order to cater to a women's field, because it's like a lot of TDs, male TDs, will marry themselves to this super tough. Like, oh man, this is gonna be so sick. And well, the women can't play. Well, there's only gonna be 4 of them. Like, that is the kind of thinking that needs to go out the window. And you because what you did is you found the truth, which is that you can make it appropriate for both, but you're just going to have to be willing to compromise and come a little bit off that extreme end and make something that's balanced for both.
Right on.
And you did it apparently in a way that did not sacrifice anything for either side, and that is the best of both worlds. So
you said one way, ways to, I forget how you phrased it, but how can the coverage of this, and so specifically the coverage of this Harper Disc Golf Life, Harper Disc Life?
Harper Disc
Life,
Life,
Harper
or
Disc
Harper
Life.
Thompson Disc Golf. You can find it on YouTube by searching either.
Yeah,
thing.
not sure when this podcast is dropping, but look.
I'll have this up within the next couple days, and
so probably by the time this drops, we will be pretty close to.
I'll have it. I'll have this edited and posted. If we come back Wednesday to record the commentary, then this will go up that day. It'll be up by the time we're recording.
Right on.
This is the perfect teaser.
Yeah.
Perfect intro.
See, all things, the universe has a way of unfolding as it should. So
This has been awesome.
it's been fun, right?
Thank you.
We salvaged something out of it anyway.
And get to know Harper a little better.
Yeah.
We don't know each other too well. I just see him as the young. Well, years ago it was who's that kid?
This is going to sound like I'm
smashing at
shining
Crockett.
you on a little bit, but I was literally like, within the last couple weeks, like, man, it's been a while since we had Harper on, and he's been tearing it up. We probably ought to get him on the show. I didn't
funny when
even
you
mean to do it. It like happened accidentally.
It's funny when
The
you think
universe, man.
The universe, bro.
like earlier you were saying, anyone can be good at disc golf if you put work in, and I'm sitting here thinking like, I mean, I'm decent, but if I quit my Vanderbilt job and dedicated my life to disc golf, I would never be as good as Harper.
Yeah.
It's like it's funny to think about like just the I mean, there's just
But
natural
understand
talent
too, man. And here's the thing: is like our understanding or our scope of what's good versus whatever. It's all relative because Harper is in the top 1% of disc golfers in the world.
and he's 50 points lower rated than the best golfers in the world.
But he is in the top 1%. We'll never be in the top 1%. But if we go to a family reunion and a bunch of the people on that side of the family never even heard of disc golf, and you hand them a golf disc, and they throw it 80 feet, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's cool," and then you grab a hold of it and you throw your putter 300 feet. You know what they do? They go, "Holy shit!" That's exactly what happened.
It's all perspective.
Exactly.
Because we talk about how good Harper is, but Harper probably, I mean, he's not satisfied. He's trying to get up to that 10-4, like not just top couple in Tennessee, but how do you get to be one of the top players in the world?
But this is also the great beauty of disc golf is that it doesn't have to just be the playing and the tournaments and all that stuff. You can find something that you're passionate about, a game within the game. Everybody can. For me, it was running tournaments and promoting. I found a thread there that I really just grabbed a hold of. I was like, this is where I'm going to operate. And I immediately knew I wasn't going to focus on being competitive. I was going to focus on running good events and making something out of our fractured community. Like keeping the work going that Alan and everybody else had been doing already. Like, let's see that through and make this everything it could be. And that was just what and now you can see all these different things. Like John might become the next big media provider. You never know. This might be this video, the Oaks Gold footage that you guys have. That might be his beginning before that's
seminal video. I'm excited to see how many videos.
And the industry and the business is growing at a point now where anybody with an idea has a shot, dude. Like you could make this your life. It's possible.
Well,
so.
I mean, just to, I guess, finish on this, you deserve, obviously, you've gotten your fair share of criticism, but you deserve a ton of credit for doing what you just suggested or said and working these last couple of years to lead to this moment of the freaking NT finale is pretty outrageous. And so kudos to you and Hoy, and I call him Hoy because I can.
And it's not, and it's not about any one person or group of people. It's not about the club. It's not even about. It's not a Nashville thing. This is a big win for Tennessee, dude. This is a big win for, especially Middle Tennessee, but Tennessee as a whole, dude, because we have a historic place in the history of disc golf and like in the pantheon and the legacy of disc golf. Tennessee has a huge role in the evolution and the history of the sport. And it's just not been a player on the big stage for the last 5 to 10 years. And it's because of a whole lot of reasons. There's a host of reasons why. But that's what I've been trying to be about is repair all that. Let's get back to being the Nashville disc golf community. Let's get back to let's put this thing back where it belongs. And the work is not nearly done. The NT is just the beginning. There's way bigger things and way more work that we have to do. But now there's more people doing it. And that was also a part of the strategy. So.
Right on. Well, appreciate you and the club and all you do. And I think
Team Disc Golf.
Laters.
Peace out. Harper, John, thank you guys for doing what you did with Oaks Gold and with the Seven Oaks Open and with the coverage. I'm excited to get this thing locked out. We can get the video out to the people. Audience, thank you for tuning into episode 36. Please give us a subscribe. Click the bell. It'll help us out quite a bit. And we will catch you on the flip side.
Peace.
And on the course or somewhere.
Let the bass kick.